6 December 1941, 04:30 hours, outside Moscow. The wind cuts first, not like a breeze, like a blade. German sentries of the Wehrmacht's Army Group Center stamp their boots in the darkness, breath crystallizing instantly, rifles glued to numb fingers. Snow creaks underfoot, loud in the silence, too loud. Somewhere beyond the frozen tree line, the land exhales, and then artillery answers. No warning, no speeches, just fire. Soviet Katyusha rockets scream out of the night, their howls tearing through the frozen air before detonating among German forward positions. Dugouts collapse, radios go dead, horses rear and scream. Men who believed the war was already won scramble half-dressed into white chaos. 3 months earlier, these same soldiers marched east laughing. Moscow, they were told, would fall before winter. The Red Army was finished. One kick, Hitler had said, and the whole rotten structure would collapse. Now engines refuse to turn. Oil has frozen solid. Panzer III crews hammer at steel blocks that will not wake. In command tents, officers unfold maps with shaking hands. The thermometer reads -30. Weapons jam, machine guns seize. Frostbite claims fingers before the enemy does. And then, through the snowstorm, dark shapes move forward, silent, organized, endless. Soviet infantry in white camouflage, fresh divisions, not broken, not beaten. Somewhere west of Moscow, General Georgy Zhukov has chosen this moment. The Germans don't know it yet, but this is not another attack. This is the moment the war changes direction. The temperature keeps falling, hour by hour, degree by degree. German supply columns stall on snow-choked roads outside Klin and Kaluga, their trucks abandoned like skeletons, engines split open by the cold. Fuel lines are ice, grease has turned to stone. Men burn maps, furniture, even rifle stocks just to feel their hands again. This was never supposed to happen. The Wehrmacht, master of movement and momentum, is now nailed to the earth. Winter uniforms never arrived. Lubricants were chosen for summer. Even the horses, tens of thousands of them, collapse in the snow, legs buckling, eyes glassy, steam rising from their bodies before they go still. Inside frozen foxholes, soldiers wrap rags around their boots. Some cut felt from fallen comrades. Frostbite spreads quietly, invisibly. Fingers blacken, toes vanish. A man can lose a foot and not feel it until morning. And the Red Army watches. Then it strikes again. Soviet ski troops slide through forests the Germans believed impassable. T-34 tanks, wide-tracked and unstoppable in snow, roll forward where German armor cannot follow. Their engines start every time. Their crews wear padded jackets and felt boots. They were built for this world. Orders from Berlin arrive late, useless, detached from reality. Hold your ground, no retreat. Hitler's voice crackles through radios that barely function, commanding positions that no longer exist. German officers begin to understand the truth they were never allowed to say aloud. This is not a temporary setback. This is not weather. This is a weapon. And now, from the east, the Soviets are no longer retreating. They are advancing in strength the Germans never imagined. Dawn breaks pale and merciless over the frozen front. Behind the Soviet lines, engines roar, not in panic, but in preparation. Siberian divisions, hardened by years of sub-zero training, move into position with practiced calm. Their breath fogs the air. Their faces are unreadable. These men have waited for this moment. At their center stands General Georgy Zhukov, heavy coat pulled tight, eyes fixed on the map. Intelligence from Tokyo has confirmed what Stalin dared to hope. Japan will not strike in the east. The reserves are free, and Zhukov intends to spend them all. At 0500 hours, whistles blow. Artillery pounds German positions, already cracked by cold. Then the infantry comes, moving fast, firing accurately, advancing without hesitation. Where German units expect exhausted survivors, they find fresh troops with full magazines and clear orders. The shock is total. Entire Wehrmacht regiments reel backward, cohesion dissolving under pressure they can no longer resist. Communications fail. Officers shout commands that vanish into wind and snow. Counterattacks stall before they begin. Tanks won't start, guns won't fire, men can't move fast enough. The myth collapses quietly at first, then all at once. For the first time in the war, German soldiers are not advancing, not holding, but running, stumbling through drifts, abandoning guns, leaving wounded behind because there is no strength left to carry them. Zhukov's counteroffensive drives west with relentless force, smashing through thin lines, retaking towns whose names had already been carved onto German victory lists. And somewhere on the road to Smolensk, a German officer writes in his diary, hands shaking so badly he can barely form the words, "We are not fighting the enemy alone. We are fighting the land itself." What began as a counterattack is becoming something far more dangerous, a retreat.
The retreat begins without ceremony. No bugles, no orders read aloud. Just movement, backward, westward, away from Moscow. Columns of German soldiers drift through the snow like ghosts, faces hollow, uniforms stiff with ice. Rifles hang uselessly. Ammunition is discarded to lighten the load. Wounded men are propped against trees with whispered apologies that freeze in the air. Discipline fractures. Units lose their names. Divisions dissolve into crowds. A panzer regiment becomes a handful of men dragging one dead tank behind horses too weak to pull it. Staff cars are abandoned. Maps are burned, not to hide secrets, but for heat. The roads are worse. Soviet aircraft prowl low, Il-2 Sturmovix ripping into retreating columns with cannon fire. Red Army cavalry appears where no one expects them, cutting off stragglers, overrunning field kitchens, capturing men who no longer resist. German commanders send frantic messages up the chain. No fuel, no food, no ammunition, no winter clothing. Berlin responds with demands. Stand fast, restore the line, victory is near. But victory has vanished into the snow. At night, fires glow briefly, then die as fuel runs out. Men sleep sitting up, afraid that lying down means never standing again. Some don't wake. Others wake screaming, convinced they are still marching east. The Soviets press harder. Town after town falls back into Red Army hands. Each kilometer retaken is a humiliation the Reich cannot erase. The invincible army is now an army of survivors. And deep in Germany's high command, a terrible understanding begins to spread. If Moscow did not fall, then nothing is certain anymore.
January 1942 arrives without mercy. The front stabilizes, not because the Germans have recovered, but because there is nothing left to lose. The advance on Moscow is over. The capital still stands, its lights dimmed, its people exhausted, but unbroken. For the first time since 1939, the Wehrmacht has failed. In frozen headquarters west of the city, German generals study casualty lists that make no sense. Divisions erased without decisive battles. Losses measured not only in men, but in belief. The doctrine of blitzkrieg, speed, shock, inevitability, lies buried beneath the snow. Hitler reacts with fury. He dismisses commanders, he forbids withdrawals, he tightens control, convinced that willpower can replace fuel, that ideology can defeat physics. But something irreversible has happened. The spell is broken. Across the front, Soviet soldiers realize it too. They have stopped the Germans. They have pushed them back. They have survived. Factories beyond the Urals roar day and night. New armies form. New tanks roll west. The Red Army that was mocked, encircled, and written off now knows a truth the world will soon learn. Germany can be beaten. The winter of 1941 does not end the war, but it ends the illusion. From this point forward, every German advance will carry doubt. Every victory will feel temporary. Every defeat will feel final. The ghosts retreating from Moscow are not just men. They are the remains of a myth that will never return.